And we are live. So, a warm welcome. Greetings to each and everyone. Thank you so much for looking forward in our Wednesday regular Let Us Talk It webinar events. So, from Let Us Talk It, we actually do this webinars to share or provide free knowledge. Like this is a free knowledge sharing platform. So, we invite seasoned professional guests. They may be a prominent speaker or just starting to speak, we invite them freely here in our platform to share their experiences, not just the knowledge or information that they have. Because with the help of the internet, like you can just Google or search the informations that you need to know, but with the experience and personal point of view of our seasoned guest speakers, definitely it will give you more value. And to know about more of us, let me just share you a short window we have here. So let us talk it. You can visit our website, letustalkit.com. And we do this Zipinars. So we do not call it webinars. We call it Zipinars because we try to zip in two different topics in one session. So that's to minimize the time consumed, but maximizes the information that you get from our professional guest speakers. And this is a not for profit collaboration initiative. So we do not monetize this free knowledge sharing platform. We just wanted to hand you over various informations from different type of professionals and their point of views and their personal experiences. And the Let Us Talk It also do startup acceleration program and youth webinars and workshops as well. And these are the associated brands of Let Us Talk It. Let Us Talk It actually is an initiative formed by Cogent Integrated Business Solutions. So they're an IT company based in Detroit, Michigan, and they wanted to give back to the community. And the best form or the best way to do it is to do this free knowledge sharing platform. All right. And if you like the information that we share, and if you are friends, family, or even a fan and aspirants of the guest speakers that we invite, you can help us spread the word by sharing the videos, or so liking and subscribing to the channel. This will also help promoting the persons that has guested, and also their brands as well will have additional visibility. And if you wish to get more of our contents, you can visit our website, and there's the email and telephone number that we have. And if you wanted to do guest speaking, you can also prompt us. All right. So as mentioned from the last webinar, we'll be bringing you two new guest speakers and two new topics that we have today. And this one is a very interesting topics that we have our guest speakers have prepared for us. So for the first topic that uh, we have accelerators. So it's a boon for Indian startups. So that's the topic chosen by such a very experienced guest speaker that we have. And this is actually like the Indian startups are catching up a lot of interest from global audience. And it's now that Indian startup ecosystem is getting matured. So this is all thanks to different genres of participants and the pivotal role that each one of them plays. And accelerators are positioned to scale startups on every parameter and make them not only investment ready, but also to strengthen their business models. And our guest speaker is the CEO and fund manager of Marwari Catalyst Fund, and has more than 2 decades of rich experience across startup ecosystem, alternate investment fund, family office advisory, banking and wealth management in areas of fundraising, business strategy, business development, and distribution channel management in mid-management to senior management roles. And we present to you none other than Mr. Nikhil Gupta to present the first topic.
For your very kind words and for the introduction. Gives me again. Thank you so much to you, to your entire team of professionals from your end who are actually putting this piece together and trying to, like you said, rightly return back to the society, to the economy in the best possible way. And it only gets better when it is not kind of just theoretical, but it comes out of real life experiences and really backed up by uh, on a real time basis the kind of experience that individuals have in terms of what kind of journeys they've covered and what kind of bottlenecks they are trying to kind of solve and thresh out. So thank you so much once again, and it's a privilege to be on your panel and to actually talk about how Accelerator as an active player, not just in fact in the Indian startup ecosystem, but globally, how at best the Accelerator plays their role to kind of give a boost or a natural boost to the startup ecosystem. So to begin with, John, I would so like I was telling you earlier, so I've not really prepared a presentation because I thought it is at best to talk more candidly and more out of real life examples and case studies rather than kind of giving you a run through on the presentations or the PPTs because it kind of becomes a little boring, and especially like you also initially mentioned, considering the time zone. So in India, it's almost close to night now. It is night, so I thought it makes it a lot more sense to keep it a little light, a little fluid, and more interactive. So yes, so I would thereby like to begin by talking about the role that actually comes in. So what are the different plug points? What are the gaps in the ecosystem, and where exactly the different genres of ecosystem partners and ecosystem players play a very pivotal role there. But before that, let me take a little bit of a pushback and give you a little bit of a synopsis in terms of where the startup ecosystem in India is moving to. Right. So the Indian startup ecosystem is actually booming. We have some very sound startups which have already kind of started creating their marks on the global maps as well, and not just keeping themselves restricted to or limited to India. But Indian startup ecosystem is definitely breaking those barriers and going far beyond. And the reason they're able to do that is, of course, I would want to give credit to a lot of players in the Indian startup ecosystem. And the good part is that because the founders of these startup companies in India, they have begun to understand the importance of each genre of player in the ecosystem. So, for example, for us here in India, it all begins by an incubator or startup companies that actually enter into the incubation phase, and that's where the entire journey for them begins, right? uh, so basically an incubator, I won't talk much about an incubator, but just to give you a quick background, so an incubator is really expected to get the basics of any startup companies in place, so right from the company incorporations to getting them up and rolling to kind of give a their MVP versions or their beta and trial versions to get validated in the ecosystem. That's the role which an incubator is expected to play. And quickly moving from there, the next best move for any startup company could naturally be moving from an incubator to an accelerator. So when an incubator actually contributes towards getting their basics in place, the larger role which any player is expected to play is done by an accelerator, because that is actually the time where an accelerator is expected to prepare them for a larger, be it if I'm talking on the commercial front, for a larger round construct, or also in terms of building up their businesses. So the moment a startup company is validated in the ecosystem, immediately it becomes a natural play to move to an accelerator, and an accelerator is expected to onboard all of those responsibilities which help in building up the top lines for any startup companies. What are those areas? Areas that an accelerator is expected to play is basically on three fronts, four fronts actually. One is it only gets better when any accelerator themselves also invest in any of those companies or all of those companies. That's a very important role which any accelerator could play. So a skin in the game is something which an accelerator, if an accelerator truly does that, it that is half battle won for any startup company at that stage. That is A. So that's one. Secondly, also a startup company is expected to just go all out and prove themselves in terms of doing their businesses, in terms of creating an outreach, in terms of getting the best practices in place. corporate governances to be in place, but it gets better when it is actually backed by an accelerator, or it is backed by a professional like an accelerator, because an accelerator is actually expected to off-shoulder all of these functional responsibilities from the startup companies. And honestly, any accelerator would perform well if they actually have each of their companies, each of their portfolio companies to just go and deliver and take all the cumbersome activities which otherwise could be a bottleneck or a pain point area for any of the startup companies. If those functional areas are kind of taken over by an accelerator, it is the best possible solution on non-commercial front. So that's the second role or the second pivotal role which any accelerator in an ideal situation is expected to play. Thirdly, definitely, yes, there is a formal accelerator program, a scripted, tutored accelerator program, which is really required. Because what we have observed, and again, I will not keep that discussion limited just to India, but global front also, what we have actually observed is that a startup company usually faces a lot of initial teething problems for the initial perhaps 3 or 4 years time. Incidentally, that is around the time where an accelerator is there or is expected to support each of those companies, right? So in midst or in those areas across different fragmented segments, also what is really required is that a lot of mentorship, lot of venture building activities are really called for. So that is also one third area where an accelerator is expected to deliver. And the quality of the mentors and the venture builders is the key over there. So an accelerator can only deliver well once they have good ecosystem partners, once they have good mentors on boarded, and they have good venture builders to take care of. And fourthly, and most importantly, whilst we do all of these things, the objective is definitely there to prepare each of the companies for a larger construct. So it could either be a larger round construct, larger fundraise, or it could be to kind of help building up their top line, a lot of business synergies, integrations to be established, market making, business making for them, all kinds of penetration of regions, deepening of relationships, and providing them, or rather, the correct word would be guiding each of those companies to kind of not to pivot, but to stay put on their approaches, on their segments, and only thicken and only make that better. So that is what an accelerator is expected to deliver. And post that, once or rather, in fact, once each of these segments are played well or delivered well by an accelerator, then is the time when actually the larger boys in the game or the larger players are expected to come in, because that's when each of these companies are, we could very comfortably say that each of these companies are prepared to face or to create larger growth areas for them. So scalability is when so an accelerator is actually expected to pick up those companies from, perhaps in terms of commercials, if I might say, right from seed stages or an early revenue, early traction kind of a stage, and take them all the way up to series round construct, or maybe series A, series B, so on and so forth. So that's the role which an accelerator is expected to play. So this is by definition how an accelerator, or before that, like I mentioned, how an incubator actually delivers. But the point being over here, that why the need of an incubator, why the need of an accelerator? Because a startup would still be perhaps be of the opinion that they are good to do it by themselves. Our honest suggestion to the startup companies, and we go all out in talking about it, is that it doesn't really make sense to skip a step. You would rather be a part of the process and then look at long-term goals and not an immediate gain. That's why it is crucial that each of the company goes through that process, or goes through the grind, and goes through the entire different genres of players that are there. And why not, in fact? Because a couple of years back, the ecosystem was not so matured, and we didn't have so many different kinds of players. But thankfully, now that we have it, I think it's a good practice to make the most of it and benefit out of it. That is why the need of an accelerator comes in. Another also important thing which I want to quickly add is an accelerator is also expected to play a crucial role in terms of getting them uh, uh, flip their models or establish a lot of cross-border synergies. because today is a time when the entire world is moving towards tech enablement or tech backed startups. And it only gets better when each of these startup companies are also in a position to go to regions which are perhaps tech savvy, which have a lot of technology support at their end, and it works as a win-win for both the regions for that matter, because definitely in those regions also they encourage expat companies coming in over there and establishing themselves there, and it kind of works as a to and fro movement for companies from both countries or from both regions. So that's another important area which an accelerator is expected to deliver or kind of live up to. Because each of these segments that I mentioned, once the accelerator delivers that or provides solutions in those areas, we can truly say that in a span of 3 years, 4 years' time, or 5 years' time, perhaps, we can truly say that each of the companies are now prepared to look at growth stage or growth capital in terms of commercial language, right? That is the time when actually perhaps a VC, a venture capital fund or a private equity fund, subject to the size of the company, steps in and they would want to kind of pick up those companies from there. In a way, what we are also talking about is that by doing these or by following these stepstones, we are also ensuring that the entire ecosystem is also maturing, right? Because at different stages, the moment different players come in, they are less assured that somebody who was there as a part of a backward integration partner to them, they have delivered well. And fortunately or thankfully, those pain point areas in an ideal situation, those pain point areas should not reoccur. So rather than experimenting at every different stage, a succeeder is less assured that an immediate player who was before him or her or that entity, they have delivered well, and we are not going to kind of again waste time on the same subject matter or on the same pain point areas. So that's why by doing that, the overall ecosystem also gets matured. It becomes all the more robust, and and the good part is that everybody is recipient to it because everybody very clearly knows that what is the kind of a role that they're expected to play, and they will, I mean, obviously, they will not want to infringe the other segment or the other player's role also. So everybody has got very, very clearly defined roles to be played, and more importantly, deliverables to be looked at. So that is the reason why the need of an accelerator is there, both on domestic front as well as cross border. And I strongly feel that uh, since incubators and accelerators have come in, the ecosystem is improving much beyond or much more than what it was perhaps a couple of years back. So hence the need of accelerators, not just in India, but globally everywhere. So I could pause for a moment if there are any questions. Otherwise, this is a piece of business which is very very close to me. I can go on and on talking about it. Uh, if you want to take up any questions at the moment, or we can leave it for the last part of it.
Yes, from our attendees, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand or you can put it in chat so I could deliver it to our guest. And yeah, we have greetings here from Said Moise from Pakistan, watching on YouTube Live. And yes, Pankaj, hello, welcome
Yeah,
to our
I mean,
webinar.
yeah, Nikhil, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Pankaj.
I must tell you, it's a great insight for the all founders. Just to have a one small query from my side. So, under your accelerator program, roughly what is the ticket size and the timeline for this accession
Okay,
period? And
so okay. So we run a formal accelerator program which is for 3 months and 3 to 4 months time, subject to industry. So as and I was in fact, Pankaj, I would have answered this towards the last part of my description because I was told by the organizers that I could take the last 5 minutes to talk about Marwari Catalyst as an accelerator, and that's when I could give all of these insights. But nonetheless, since you brought it up, so let me answer that by saying that as an accelerator, not just for us, but truly for any accelerator to deliver, it is in their own interest that they do not follow a pure investment model. So it is an accelerator model with skin in the game. So in fact, so I don't know. I mean, if I'm kind of showing my wallpaper very clearly. So
Yeah,
that
yeah, it's
shows
visible, it's
that,
visible, it's visible.
right? So it clearly hints to the fact that an accelerator with skin in the game is the key over here. Hence, to answer your question, the first leg of check that we put in, it's a signaling check. It would perhaps be close to about say 50,000 USD, 25,000 to 50,000 USD as a signaling check. And then post that, I'm not even averse to topping up our investments. I might not do that in my entire batch of those 6, 8, 10 companies which we have as a part of the final batch. But certainly, out of choice, out of interest, I will want to top up investments and maybe 20% out of the entire batch. And that's where we write larger checks.
Thank you, Nikhil, for a great insight. Thank you.
Pleasure, Pankaj.
All right. Thank you, Pankaj, for interacting. Anyone else before Sir Nico will proceed? Okay. You can go ahead, sir. I don't have any yet so
Sure.
far. I'll let you know if we have on YouTube as well.
Sure, perfect. One more thing which I want to actually bring out to your audience, John, is that especially from a country like India, our startup ecosystem is growing. We have grown over the past couple of years, and those numbers still scale up on a real-time basis. In fact, we are amongst a few Southeast Asian countries which claim or which talk of the highest number of unicorns and unicorns also coming out, right? So for example, a country like India, we've got about say last year and the year before that, year on year, we clocked in about 112, 116 odd unicorns coming in, right? So which means a combined wealth of more than $350 billion is the kind of exposure that startup companies across different stages have looked at, and those numbers grow. I do give a lot of credit to our government also, because the Indian government, which is led by Mr. Modi, both on the state level as well as on the center side, the center government, central government, they provide a lot of grants, subsidies, and a lot of support to startup ecosystem or to the startup companies at different stages, across different categories, across different genres, and stuff like that. So that also gives a natural boost to the entire startup ecosystem to in India. Again, the point being over there that those benefits are rolled out by the government, but it again becomes an important part to be played, or an important role to be played by any accelerator, or in fact to some extent also before me, an incubator, to kind of channelize and provide the right kind of solutions or the right kind of grants and subsidies or benefits which are rolled out from the government side to the startup companies. So that bit of a process, which I missed out on mentioning during my introduction, that bit of an exercise is also, in an ideal situation, it is the responsibility of incubators and accelerators to deliver. Because a startup founder, no matter how much they are involved in their businesses and how much they kind of go all out raising funds, it gets better when a professional in that particular space who has got hands-on experience and who does this 24 by 7, 365 days a year, they are in a relatively better position or a better spot to deliver those solutions as well. And it becomes a little seamless for the founders also. So that's also one benefit which is available in India. And hence we encourage a lot of offshore companies also to kind of come into India and seek the necessary support from both Indian government as well as on the private front. And that's exactly what Maruti Catalyst as an accelerator also does. Amongst the various roles which I mentioned, right from investments to functional responsibilities to ecosystem support. And I should also quickly bring in over here that the internal ecosystem which any accelerator creates, and which doesn't happen overnight, it takes a lot of time, effort, energy to build up that kind of an ecosystem. Once that kind of an ecosystem is created, and that kind of a support is also kind of as a spillover, that kind of a support is also provided to these startup ecosystems or to the portfolio companies, it gets much better. So that is another area which we talk very high on at Maruti Catalyst, because we've got some very nice marquee players from the ecosystem, and they provide a lot of venture building support and a lot of mentorship support to give the right side or to give the right kind of directions to the portfolio companies to build up their top lines and build up their businesses, or to do kind of a market making for them. So that is one area which we fortunately, we have that inbuilt at Marvadi Catalyst, and we continue nurturing that. We continue building up, and we invite more people to be a part of our family as well, to be a part of Marvadi Catalyst. And certainly, with your platform, I will want to kind of create that outreach, and I'll want to reach out to ecosystem players both domestically in India as well as offshore to collaborate, to join us. Let's kind of build this together and let everybody benefit out of it. So definitely, joint accelerator programs is something which Maverick Catalyst has been running actively. We've got enough and more case studies, use cases to talk about, success stories to talk about, uh, proven track records to be spoken about. All of those things are already in place, and come be a part of that journey. It's nice. It's nice and it's addictive. So the more you do it, the more you get attracted to it, and the more you intend to kind of build up. So truly, but it is genuinely, it is very addictive. And what better can it get than see a company flourish and a founder flourish, or build up beautiful businesses, and not just make India proud, but also kind of grow the entire ecosystem domestically as well as cross-border. So that's something which Maruti Catalyst has been doing for a long period of time, and we intend to do this for, I don't know, I mean, all of us, we breathe, we talk, we eat, we drink, only startup ecosystem, we only talk about this. And in fact, I'll just take last 5 more minutes from you, John. So thankfully, we also happen to be amongst the few accelerators in India where we've come up with our own alternate investment fund, and it only makes it all the more viable for participants to be a part of structured equity or be a part of the structured investment mechanism. And again, not just keeping it limited to India, but also from cross-border regions. So we have that vehicle in place. We have a alternate investment fund in place, which is regulated by the Indian regulators. And we are definitely wanting to look at different series of such funds coming up, and different schemes and different sectors to focus on. I am currently managing close to 80 odd companies in my portfolio. I intend to take this number to 150, 200 by 2025 year end. So that's a kind of a scalability that we're talking about. So we're definitely talking of a 3x growth from where we are today whilst we're talking. So, and we've done that. We've seen that in the past also. So what we truly believe at Maverick Catalyst is that we've done it once, we can do it multiple times, and that's exactly what we've been kind of talking of, and that's something that we've been preaching very high about, talking very high about.
All right. Thank you
So
so
yeah,
much.
that's what. Yeah, thank you so much. So this was my bit. What I actually wanted to talk about, the role of an accelerator, the need of an accelerator, and the good part is that people are recipient to the involvement of an accelerator. So for us, that kind of keeps us happy. So we are good with it.
Definitely. For those who are having ideas in venturing into business, definitely domestically in India or offshore, definitely make sure to check marwaricatalyst.com. So that's the website for
Correct.
the accelerator that Sir Nikhil Gupta is handling. So definitely make sure to check. You can also add him on LinkedIn. Just type his name. He definitely is very like responsive for any queries that you have. So if you just want to ask questions, is more willing to give you answers to those. Anything else, sir, happening going forward or in the future? Do you have any events like conferences or online seminars?
Yes, yes. So we do have a lot of events, both in person, webinars, a lot of training sessions. We have a separate arm where we actually take care of a lot of training programs for not just corporates, but also as a part of our backward integrations with incubators, as a part of our forward integration with a lot of mid corporates and large corporate innovation arms. And thirdly, also within the same piece of business, we conduct a lot of training programs for educational institutions. So we work very closely with educational institutions. Again, this is also not just limited to India, but also cross-border. So for example, just to give you an example over here, so we already have some collaborations in place in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Dubai, Doha, the Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, and also something that we are working around in the European markets. So a lot of training programs that we conduct, a lot of webinars that we conduct, and for us, it's more about joining the dots. It's more about completing the circle, right? So for me, any form of an integration, whether it is backward integration partners or forward ones, it only helps me enable the ecosystem further. So always open to those collaborations, always open to exploring new areas which we could utilize to build up the ecosystem and build up a set of companies and as well as explore new companies.
Alrighty.
I'll just take one last moment from you and just as a closing statement from my side, John. So it's a privilege to address your audience, especially on this particular day. I'm talking about the Indian startup ecosystem, about the role of accelerators in the Indian startup ecosystem, and how at best the Indian startup ecosystem as well as the Indian accelerators are creating a benchmark on the global map. It gives me immense amount of pleasure to talk about this topic today, especially because today is the eve of our Indian Independence Day. Tomorrow is our Independence Day, so it gives us. So we are very proud to talk about or be a part of this ecosystem.
All right, that's really wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this initiative as well, and promoting your services, because not of those who are planning to venture into the business world knows a lot of much of this thing. So definitely it's for you guys, if you're watching or will be watching this recorded session, make sure to visit marwarcatalyst.com for the accelerator website. Alrighty. Okay, so we don't have any questions so far. We have just check on YouTube. Okay, no questions so far. But in case anything
Correct.
comes up, feel free to connect to Sir Nico Gupta on LinkedIn, and you can message him
Sure.
directly if any concerns
Certainly.
come up. All right. And for those who have,
And
yes, go ahead, sir.
you have all my coordinates also, John. So in case your audience wants to reach out to me on a separate note, so I'm happy to kind of interact with them and give whatever little bit of an input that we can from our end.
Definitely, I'll bring that one up to you, sir. And for those who have mentioned, for the attendees who submitted their links on LinkedIn, if you're hesitant, you can join in now on Zoom to interact with our guest speakers. And if you're watching on YouTube, it is on the caption below. You'll see the Zoom link there. It's free, no password. You can join in directly to interact with our guest speaker, definitely. And we are moving on to the second topic for today. Again, thank you so much, Sir Nico Gupta. And yeah,
Thank you so much.
all right. So moving forward, we have the second topic today. So the second topic is about prospect to profits. This is how to leverage your network to increase your net worth. So we'll, with our guest speaker, we will discover how to convert contacts into contracts by leveraging your network, and to learn key strategies to command every conversation and win every sale. And our guest speaker today is a communication and sales strategist, and also certified everything. It's this DISC facilitator with over 10 years of experience in coaching and training professionals on the DISC behavior program across various industries, and offers high energy and charismatic presentations that teaches DISC or DISC principles to individuals and companies to create a more engaged, collaborative, and adaptive culture that drives results. And from her 25-year tenuity in the corporate arena, our guest speaker has been coached by industry professionals such as Bill Walsh, America's small business expert, Brendan Burchard, personal development #1 personal development coach, and Kane Minkas, AI industry rockstar. And without further ado, we present to you Ms. Stephanie Havel for the second topic for today.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. It's great to be here with all of you. And yes, sharing about sales strategies. How do we grow our business? How do we leverage our network? And again, I love to leverage my network. You can go ahead and connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find my name there, Stephanie Havel. I'd love it if you would connect and be my contact. So I'd like to share a little bit. I'm gonna talk really fast. I know, Nicole, you talk really fast too. So, and when you're excited and you're sharing your passions, that's what I want to share with all of you here today. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and just kind of talk to you about a few things here. So I talk about prospecting to profits. How do you leverage your network to increase your net worth? And so some of the questions I just ask people is, are you struggling to convert your network into actual sales leads? A lot of people have contacts, but they say, I don't know how to get to my community. They see people are doing business on LinkedIn, or they post something on other social media platforms and they didn't use them for their services. So they wonder, why aren't my friends and my family and my colleagues coming to me for business? Or maybe what you're doing currently to generate leads is not working for you. Sometimes I like to use the analogy, you're running a race, you're running a marathon, but you're on a treadmill. So you're putting out a lot of effort, but you're not actually moving forward. And then again, is your network underutilized when it comes to generating quality leads? We have all these connections on LinkedIn, but how do we let them know about what we do and how we can support them in their business? So why should you listen to me? What's my experience? I know, Phil John, you just read my bio, but I have 5 decades of competitive sales. So yes, that gives away my age a little bit. But I have been working in sales since I was 6 years old. I like to share the picture in the top right here. That's my grandfather. He was an Italian immigrant and was a farmer here in the U.S., in St. Paul, Minnesota, in the United States. And what I learned from him was, it wasn't about just transactions. It was about making connections and just really connecting with people. Would come to this market. If you've ever been to a farmer's type market, a lot of the produce is the same. And so how do people decide who they're going to buy from? Why should they buy from me and my grandfather's stand versus somebody else? And because we started building up relationships, people would come to our market every single week. And I started sharing recipes. My mother was an Italian immigrant as well. And I'd be talking about broccoli and cauliflower and how my mom would make broccoli for me. And people wanted to start coming back because they want to hear this cute little 6-year-old girl, little blonde-haired girl, talk about recipes and eating her vegetables. And like, well, if she's going to eat her vegetables, maybe my kids would. And so we just started building up this community of people, and they got to know us and we got to know them. And so that's where I learned at a very young age about building those relationships. And that's how you can build your business, get people to like you, want to do business with you, and refer you. I also talk about my mother owned a beauty salon. And when people came in, it wasn't just about, getting their hair done. It was an overall experience. So it's things about what is kind of experience does your customer get when they do business with you? Whether you're e-commerce or you have a store online, whatever it is, what is that experience that they get? Are they feeling wonderful when they come in? My mom, they'd feel wonderful. They get their hair done, their makeup, maybe some clothes, everything. It was a full experience that they got. And so again, I learned that at a very young age. And then I spent 25 years in corporate America. I was in sales and leadership. And I applied a lot of these principles and talked about a lot of these principles to my teams that we led. And that's how back in 2018, I worked for a large Fortune 500 financial institution here in the United States, and my team was 129 out of 250 teams. Well, that didn't sit well very with me. I'm a very competitive person. I wanted to be in the top. So I really worked with my teams. I'll talk more about, we worked on our communication strategies, but we really talked about not so much about commerce, but how do we build a community? How do we create a great experience for our clients so they'd want to come back and they'd want to refer their friends and family. And in 2019, I took my sales team from number 129 to number 19 in the company. So, and we held that position for 2 consecutive years, being 19 in the company, in a very large company. And we competed against different divisions and places across the country that had larger volume in us and bigger opportunities. But because we leveraged our network, that is how we grew our team. So just sharing a little bit about the foundation of where I had kind of help you with the strategies. So here's great. Take a screenshot of this so you can write this down, but there's the 7 steps in the sales cycle process. And it's so critical. And I think I even heard you say, Nicole, you never want to miss a step. Sometimes people will try to skip through things in a sales process or building a company, building a team. You have to take the time to make sure you master each step in the process to have success. And those are, and I won't have time to talk about all of them, but I will share a few of them. So number 1 is prospecting. We got to start with lead generating. Where do we find our clients? How do we find the ideal client? How do we reach them, let them know about it? And then qualifying. Are they a good client for us? Are we going to be able to support them in what they're looking for? And then your approach. Are you getting enough questions about where do they want to take their business? What's important to them? What do they need? It's so important to really understand. So many people, they go from prospecting, they get a lead, and then they go right to the approach. Oh, well, I have this and I have that and I have this. And then they wonder why they don't get a sale, because they don't spend enough time in the qualifying phase, finding out what is important to your customer. What value do they want? What do they need from you? And oftentimes as leaders, we just kind of assume that people know what they want. And when we spend more time in that qualifying phase, that is how then you can tailor your approach to how to best serve them. And then, of course, and then that's where you do your presentation on your product. You're able to handle objections, because if you did your homework in the prospecting qualifying phase, you're going to be able to handle those objections. And then following up. This is a big one too. So many people miss that. They do a sale, and that's where my team, one of the key things we did to growing my team was following up. Once they came in and they had that great experience, we wanted to make sure that if they ever had any questions farther on down the line, that we were here for them. Or if they had friends or families or colleagues or anybody else that needed our service, they knew where to find us. So many people drop off on that, and you can never find them because you don't remember their name. Was her name Stephanie? Was it Sarah, Susie? I don't know. It started with an S, and they can't find you. Or if you have a similar name or a similar company, they can't find you. So that is so critical. So the one thing I want all of you to know is this is what your customer is thinking. And you may or may not have heard of this acronym before, but what it stands for, this is what all of your customers is in their head. It's what's in it for me. Anytime you're giving a presentation, talking a product, doing anything, that is what the customer is asking. They want to know what's in it for me. If you think you have the latest and greatest product, the newest technology, the best system, the best process, the best program, great, congratulations. What's in it for me? How am I going to benefit? And so that's really important that you keep that in mind when you're selling and presenting to your customers, because again, they want to know, how is this going to benefit me? And then how can you be adaptable? How can you adapt to what it is? Because if you know your product, you know your service, you have passion for what you do. You can tell that I have passion for sales. But sometimes you have to adapt it to what's important to them. And your customers will certainly appreciate that. All right. So some of the things we talk about in strategic communication plans for your business. Mastering the sales process can lead up to a 30% higher conversion ratio. And you heard me say this earlier, when you miss a step, you miss a sale. And whatever it is, if you miss that follow-up step, you could miss a sale. I'll go back to it real quick here. If you miss the follow-up step, you could miss getting referred to their next client. If you miss handling their objections, you go to the presentation and then you go right in for the sale and you haven't handled their objections, you're going to lose them. Every single one of these steps is crucial for having success. And that's where we talk about is sales professionals who master that, you're going to have a 30% higher conversion ratio in your business when you master that process. And again, talking a little bit about communication, I call myself a communication strategist, communication expert. When you excel in communicating value, you'll have a 52% higher conversion ratio than those who do not. And I'm going to talk a little bit more now, kind of go into, the communication process, but what's so important about it. One of the things I kind of talk about is when you miss the steps sales, I like to give a little analogy is if you've ever baked a cake, right? Or do anything in baking. You can't just throw all the ingredients, whip it up and hope it works, right? There has to be a process, because if you put in one ingredient before the next, it's not going to work, right? You have to follow the process in order to get that to work. So a lot of people miss that. If you're building, if you're a builder, you can't start with the roof. You got to start with the foundation, and you have to build it up, and you have to go through that entire process when you're building a home to make it effective. So that's really what's so critical to understand. And so again, a couple of things I'm going to talk about in the process more today. I want to focus on prospecting, qualifying, and your approach. So one of the things, again, building a foundation. If you look at these skyscrapers, whatever country you're in, right, they're all built the same. They start with a really deep foundation. It's not just one block and then they build a skyscraper. They go deep into the ground and build that foundation. And that's what you need to do to grow and scale a big business. Right? If you're gonna start up a company and grow it and scale it, you need to make sure that you have a solid foundation to build that on. So keep that in mind about that. Now, 3 things that you need to do if you want to grow your business. Get your pens out, get your paper ready to go. 3 things. The number 1 thing is lead generation. Prospecting, right? You need to lead generate every day. You need to think about who needs to hear about my business, who wants to learn more, how am I going to find people? The second thing is lead generation. And then anybody want to take a guess on the third thing? Lead generation, right? The 3 things that are essential every day is lead generation, lead generation, lead generation. That is going to be the foundation by which you can grow your business, because not everybody's going to be a customer for you. And those are some things you learn as you grow and scale your business. You learn what your pull-through rate is. You learn what your ROI is, because every customer you call and come in contact with isn't always going to be the ideal client for you. So that's why you really need to grow that database of clients and prospects so that you can grow your business, because again, they're not all going to work for you. Now, I talk about some ways for strategic selling. So people say, well, this is all great, Stephanie. Where do I find these people? How do I build up my pipeline? That's a big problem a lot of people have, is they don't have enough leads, or they don't know how to generate them. Well, number 1, kind of where we all heard about this, is LinkedIn, and I will talk a little bit more about that. But if you go to a networking event or you're just talking with people, do you have an effective way to tell people about what you do and what's in it for them? I go to so many events, I talk to a lot of people, and after 10 minutes of talking to them, I still don't know what they do, because they just they do what I call show up and throw up. They don't really talk about the benefits of their business and how it brings value to that person that they're talking with. And so I've created a guide, and I'll give you a link to where you can download it. If you want to think of a way, you say, well, maybe I'm a little bit more introverted. I don't know. I'm just always nervous about what to say or how to say it. I created a really simple 5-step process to help you create that commercial. So wherever you are, if you're in the elevator, you're walking down the street, you're on the bus, you're at an event, you're with your family for a holiday, you can tell them in 60 seconds, in 1 minute or less, what you do and how that benefits them. I talk about the PAS format. If you're familiar with AI or ChatGPT, the PAS format is problem, agitate, solution. So when people are again, when you're creating a commercial, what is the problem that your business solves, right? So for me, I work on communication sales. What is the problem my clients have? They have problems with prospecting. They have problems with follow-up. They have problems with handling objections, closing deals. And then what's agitating about them is they're not making any money. Right? So the problem that I solve for people is I help them with sales strategies. I help them with their communications, because they want to make more money. They want to be more successful in their business. And so then I provide the solution. I do sales training. I do one-on-one coaching. I teach communication courses, all of that. So that's what that PAS format is. Problem, agitate, solution. Think about, what is the problem that your client has? What's annoying or agitating about that problem? What bothers them about that problem? And then how do you solve it? And going here to the sphere, the people, just like my story when I grew up with my grandfather in the market, people want to do business with somebody that they know, like, and trust. Well, how do they get to know you? You've got to have conversations with them, and you build up that trust. That's why my grandfather was a successful farmer for over 30 years. He was in the top. He's like in the Hall of Fame. If you ever go to St. Paul, Minnesota, in the farmer's market, there's this picture and a plaque because he was so likable. Because he talked about his story about being an Italian immigrant, and he talked about the love and the care and the passion that he put into growing these vegetables that we would sell every week. And, you know, if something was wrong, there was a rotten tomato in the basket, fine, he'd throw in a couple of more, right? But he became to trust us, and they liked us. I was sharing recipes. So it was all of that is how we built a successful business. And then also I talk about never miss an opportunity to tell people what you do. So often people just assume that they know what you do. And, you know, I tell a really quick story. Years ago, I love my birthday. My birthday's in the summer. And so I always throw a big birthday party for myself. And at the time I was in the mortgage business, right? So I did residential lending. And so I was at my birthday party, and there's all my close friends and family were there. And we just played a fun game called Stephanie Trivia. And it was 10 questions about me. And whoever got the most answers right won the pot, and they could win $100 just for knowing me. And these are my best friends and my family, people that are so close to me. And the number one question was, what does Stephanie do for her job? I was shocked at the answers. It was, she's a preschool teacher. She sells makeup. She works in a bank. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, I volunteered at my church with kids, but that wasn't what I did for my career. Sold makeup. I had done that 25 years ago. And so I think about it, like, whose fault is that they didn't know what I did? Was it their fault because they weren't listening? Or was it my fault that I didn't communicate with them? It's my fault, right? And then when I looked around this group of people and I saw that, oh gosh, my aunt and uncle bought a house. And oh, my cousins just got married and they bought a home. How many of those loans do you think that I did for my close friends and family? Zero. It was awful. It was a punch to my gut. I thought, I can't believe it. And I should be so mad at all of them, but it wasn't their fault. It was my fault. I just assumed. I never miss an opportunity to tell people what you do. And that's when I started leveraging my communication, talking to them, finding out, hey, are you getting married? When most people here get married, then they want to buy a house together. All right, if you're thinking about buying a house, did you know I can help you with that? Right? So again, what was their problem? They're getting married. They want to move out of their parents' house. Where are they going to live? They need, because they don't want to live with their mom and dad now that they're married. So then what's the solution? I can help them with financing. So never miss an opportunity. That's why it's so important to be on social media or LinkedIn or getting out there and telling people what you do and what your business is about. So I like to say this, if you don't have an introduction, get ready for a rejection. And here's where, so you can go to, and I'll provide you a QR code at the end, but if you go to salesstrategynetwork.com, that's salesstrategynetwork.com, you can download this guide. And this is my guide. I won't go through it because I want to save time, but it's just the 5 steps on how to create that effective 60-second commercial. And this is so great. If you are on a team or you're a leader, do this in a team meeting or share this with your team and see how well they can talk about their business. Or I ask, if you have a partner, a spouse, can they describe to their friends and family what you do for your business? I can guarantee you all of my friends and family can describe to their friends and family what I do for my business, right? So it's just, you go through the 5 steps. You identify who your audience is. You kind of create that hook, whether it's a question or a problem that they have. And then you just kind of go through it. You define your objective, you provide the solution, etc. So salesstrategynetwork.com, you can download that. And I'll also provide you a QR code to easily get to that. So with the last few minutes, I just want to share about, you talked about in the beginning, Phil John, my bio and the DISC behavior style. So you may or may not have heard of it, but this program has been around for over 50 years. And it's basically a behavior personality style test. And what this does is it really talks about how you communicate to other people and how other people like to be communicated with. So everybody is different. Most people will fall within one of the 4 styles. And of course, you can be a blend of all the different styles, but it's really where you put your energy and how you relate to people. And once you understand this and you understand how your client likes to be communicated with, you're going to be far more effective. So just a quick overview. The D is a very direct, straight to the point person. These are the people that I say, hey, what is it? How much is it going to cost? When can we get started? Where do I sign? The I style, that's more my style. We're very, charismatic. We like to talk. We like to know about experience. We want to hear about the fun. You have your S style. They're kind of more quiet, reserved. They like to ask a lot of questions. And then the C person is very analytical. They ask a lot of questions. They want a lot of details, and they are not quick to make a decision. So sometimes if you look at the wheel, if you see that the I and the C are opposite from each other. So for me, I'm a very high I. I make quick decisions. Sometimes the downfall is I don't always think things through. I get so darn excited about something like, oh my gosh, that sounds great. Where do I go? Where do I buy it? Where do I sign? And then I don't really think about, oh, how much does it cost? Or what do I have to do for it? That's where that C style will come in, and they will give you, okay, here's the cost, here's your return on your investment. These are all the details. And so sometimes I'm like, oh, why do you ask all these questions? Let's just get on with it. But if I'm talking to a C client and I don't provide details and information to them, they may not want to buy from me because they might not trust me because I'm not giving them the details. So it's really a fascinating program. And this is something that I offer. If it's something you're interested in, you can take an online assessment. And I do a free, or not a free, I wouldn't make any money if I did it for free, but I offer you assessment and then a 90-minute coaching call. And we'll go over, it's a 26-page assessment. And you can really learn about yourself and your behavior style. I also do this for companies. If you lead a team and you have people in your office, and how does your team collaborate together and you as a leader? And then you can also do this, it's helping understand how your clients, who do you serve? Who do you sell to? Do you have internal partners, external partners? But it's a great training program that I facilitate that you can learn on what's your communication style, and then how do you communicate to other people, and really understanding that. It's not about changing who you are. It's just about adapting. I can talk analytics, I can talk data, all those kinds of things, and still be high energy. But it's just that I need to, for some people, they just want to get right to the point. They don't care about a lot of the details. But if they're a person that wants more information, likes to think about things, I need to make sure that I allow them time. Just because I don't do business that way doesn't mean other people don't want to do business that way, right? So it's so important that you understand it. And that's really what the DISC behavior style is about. And on my salesstrategynetwork.com, you can also download this guide. And it's just real fun. Even if you haven't taken the assessment, if you want to, I encourage you. It's a great program to take and do the one-on-one coaching with me about it. But this just kind of tells you how to connect with those different behavior styles. And this is always fun to do in a team meeting as well. Most people will read one of these and can identify which one they are. And then talk to your team members, talk to your partners, whoever it is that you do business with, or your clients, and maybe ask them, and then kind of talk through this, right? So if I'm dealing with that C client, when a problem needs to be solved, I need to allow them time to analyze the situation. I need to show appreciation for their logic and their thinking. However, I don't want them to get too bogged in on the details. Sometimes that's a concern with people in that C style, is they suffer from what I call analysis paralysis. They want to analyze the details too much, and they overthink it, and then they can't make a decision. So I know I'm at my time. I just want to talk about right here, give you that link. So if you want to scan that QR code, that will bring you to my company page, the Sales Strategy Network. And that's where you can download those guides on the disc. And you can also, if you want, get more information about the disc program, whether you want to take the assessment and so forth. Again, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also text me. The phone number is 26786 is the phone number. And just enter in the word talk, TALK is the message. And I can even type that in the chat if you have text availability. But the phone number is the 26786, and then you type in the word talk. to, if you want to, and then you can schedule what I call a strategy session with me. And you can, learn more about the disc, or you can just go to salesstrategynetwork.com or the QR code and connect with me. So, okay, that was fast, a lot of information. I don't know if there's questions, or I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, that was a very vastly informational. All right. Well, thank you so much for that, really. So, our topics, I didn't expect it to have this much connection, but it's very connected. The accelerators, and then the communication and sales strategy. So it both coincide, and it's the actual process and the value that's been delivered. And yeah, we are very grateful from Let Us Talk It team, definitely, for you both speakers who have accepted this free webinar. Actually, like, it's, you have most of the things to do in your businesses and in your everyday things to do, but you decided to spare a few minutes or an hour of your time to deliver such value to the audience, and for those who will be watching on the recorded session later onwards. So we are very delighted to hear those great topics. um Okay. We don't have that much time, but definitely everything is very valuable that you have shared. And yeah, Nika wanted to ask.
So, Stephanie, I don't have a question, but just a kind of a point which I wanted to make and seek your inputs on that as well, right? So the business that we are into, that's the startup ecosystem, and accelerating them and helping them grow up their businesses and helping them in their entire kind of product life cycle and stuff like that. So, so for us, it is not about closing a sales. It is not about interacting or closing a sales. A bigger challenge, in fact, is since this bit of information is so crucial and it is so closely held, a bigger challenge is to kind of get an insight for that. So it is more about need-based analysis or need-based solution providing rather than just going all out and just kind of selling. I mean, so if you ask me honestly, I don't have a piece of paper to be sold to anybody. It is more about the ideology. It is more about the solution providing kind of adaptability which I seek from them and stuff like that. So, any inputs from your end in terms of how to kind of get the audience a little more opened up, a little more candid in terms of discussing these crucial, pivotal, and secretly held kind of discussions. So, what's been your experience on that?
Yeah, well, I think if I understand your question, just, like, just really understanding what's important to them. Right. Just asking those questions. Like I said, you heard me say, what's in it for them. And I think continuing just to ask those questions and going deep, because we already know you already have all the answers, right? And so sometimes we might think that even the most basic or simple of information, they would know that, but sometimes they don't. So I would just say, continue to, reach out, asking questions, doing polls, surveys, different things, to really find out what's valuable to them and what do they want, what do they need from you, to really grow. I guess if that, hopefully that answers your questions, or
Sure
along.
does, sure does. And just one more last thing from my end. So especially at our end at Marwari Catalyst, we give a lot of importance to brand equity and brand visibility, right? Because there's a lot of brand recall factor which kind of helps. So it is like easier said than done. It is always said that out of sight is out of mind, right? So
Yes.
that's exactly not something which anybody will want to look at. Or that's not a preferred route that anybody would want to go in for, especially considering that the amount of time, effort, thick effort that we've actually put in. So the least we would want to do is get out of sight and out of mind from these people. So there's a lot of brand recall factor which we need to create on an ongoing basis, and that's where brand equity is kind of directly mapped, directly pegged to. So that's a lot of importance that we give, and I personally feel that it helps for sure, and it only gets better when the good work which is done by any institution, by any particular company, it is highlighted, and there's a lot of outreach which is created around that. So that's something which is very, very important for us as well.
Yeah, and LinkedIn is a very powerful tool, and so many
It
people
is.
don't realize it. But the one thing that I would say is, look at your messaging on LinkedIn. Does it really explain what you do? I don't, if do you know how to do polls? Like you can ask people questions. Doing a poll is a great thing to do on LinkedIn because then it engages your audience to see, and it can be something so simple, but then you understand what is it that they want to hear about. And you can do LinkedIn lives, messaging, but then making sure that everybody in your company is talking about it and talking about it, to the people that you already have helped and served. Are they now talking about you? That's where I think people also miss the boat is they're afraid to ask people to refer them. Like, are you telling people, hey, are you sharing this message about us? Are we sharing, because if they're a happy client, of course they will, right? Just like my story with my grandfather, people started saying, oh, you got to go see this stand at the market. They have recipes, they share stories. And so now all these our network was being a referral partner for us, right? And helping us grow our business. So I would say that with the brand as well, making sure that your brand messaging and that other people understand your brand and what you're doing, because it's so elementary to us. But then if we ask people, I'd encourage you to ask your network, do you know what I do? And see and if they come back and they can't really tell you, then that's where you have to start to think about, okay, maybe I got to rebrand or I got to talk differently. Yeah. Adapt. That's where that communication training comes in. Adapt your messaging to how they can understand it better.
Sure.
Sorry, I get all excited. I could go on. Just like you could talk about your stuff forever. I could talk forever too.
Sure. That only kind of brings out the inclination and the involvement in whatever you've been doing. So for sure, I mean, that's nice. That's really appreciated and acceptable for sure.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely. So, like the actual information that comes out from you is really from your rich experience on the field that you really like, or where your passion is. Well, we're very grateful for that. Thank you so much. Both guest speakers, and then for Stephanie, do you have anything upcoming? Do you have free live seminars as well, or like orientations or anything upcoming, or you have a book?
Yeah, the big thing I would just, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, usually about every 2 weeks, or subscribe to my newsletter. I do newsletters on communication and sales training. And then usually about every 2 weeks, I do a LinkedIn live, just talking about, kind of what my audience tells me they want to hear about communications, whether it's handling difficult conversations, empathetic conversations, sales strategies. So I just love it if you connect with me, and then just tune into my LinkedIn lives and subscribe to my newsletter, and that'll give you all the information and updates about what I have coming out.
All right, that's perfect. Okay, there you go. All right, so thank you so much again for bringing your rich experience into this platform, and we value that information. You can anyone can just type those topics and then search in every, like, even on AI platforms, like they'll get information, but this much experience they will only get it here, definitely. So for those who will be watching the recorded session live, please do share on your social media platforms as well. And if you're a friend or family members, or even clients or past clients of our guest speakers, this will help their visibility to improve as well from what they already have. So definitely. And yes, so we are past the time, but definitely it's something that we don't mind, because we get to learn a lot of things from this two guest speakers, professional guest speakers that we have. And we would like to invite you again as well next Wednesday. So if you have time as well, you can join in our regular Wednesday webinar. So that's the same time for 1 hour, 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can join in and interact with our speakers. And yeah, that's much about it. So anyone who would like to do guest speaking, you are welcome, even if it's your first time to talk, but you believe that you have much value to bring to the audience or to the general public, you are very welcome to be part of the guest speakers list of the Let Us Talk It Zipiners. All right, and that is everything from our end for today's session. We thank you everyone for those who watch live, and also for those who will be subscribing and sharing this recorded session. Thank you so much in advance. And that's it from Let Us Talk It. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care as always, and enjoy the rest of your day,
Thank
whichever you
you.
are in the world. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.